Okay, well, Katie, if you're ready, why don't we get started? A formal good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the National Glass Association, I'm Sarah Niswonger, the Director of Membership, and we appreciate you being here for this Thirsty Thursday. Today's webinar takes a closer look at glass fabrication. My colleague Katie Devlin and I will begin by introducing you all to GFAB, the NGA Glass Fabricator Conference. It's a brand new event for the industry from the NGA coming to Chicago June 14th to the 17th. And then we will replay a terrific panel discussion on trends in glass fabrication that took place live on the GlassBuild show floor main stage this past November. And the GlassBuild panel called What's Trending in Glass Fabrication was moderated by Katie, and it offered a preview of GFAB as well as a discussion on the current challenges and opportunities for glass fabrication companies. And it featured panelists Jenni Chase, NGA's Vice President of Workforce Development, Vipul Bhagat, President and CEO of Skyline Architectural Design, and NGA board member, and also Dan Reinhart, CEO of Salem Fabrication Technologies Group, also an NGA board member. Today's webinar will replay this panel in full, which is focused on the biggest challenges for today's glass fabricators, mainly workforce concerns, in addition to automation and technology in the glass plant and design trends in glass. Of note, during the live panel, Dan shared a video demonstrating automated solutions throughout the factory floor. So we'll be providing a link to that video in the chat so you can view it on your own time after this webinar is complete. Additionally, the My Glass Fab courses on heat treating that Jenni mentions during the panel will now be available in April. Hopefully you are all aware, before GFAB takes place, we're coming up on the Building Envelope Contractors Conference, less than 2 weeks away now in Louisville, Kentucky. On the first day, we have a full day of presentations that touch on pretty much every part of your business life, whether that's workforce and talent, leadership transitions, technical advancements, and architect perspective, and the construction forecast for 2026 and beyond. And then day 2 of the conference is Tactical Tuesday. This is a half day of sessions that have insight crucial to your day-to-day business, actionable AI guidance, the latest legal updates, maximizing profits in the pre-construction, and then advanced job site technology. So both days of this conference are not to be missed, and we hope to see you in Louisville in just over a week now. So now let's shift over to GFAB and the glass fabricator segment. Katie, why don't you start us off? Can you introduce us to GFAB?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So I am so excited to be heading to Louisville for BEC that you just mentioned, and with GFAB, we are essentially trying to create the BEC for the glass fabricator community. We have talked to just so many fabricators over the last few years about what they are looking for in their fabricator education, and it's really wanting a single place where they can come together. People from all sides of the business can come together to address their ongoing challenges. So, in short, that's what we are hoping to do with GFAB, and we're doing that by building off of NGA's previous events for the fabricator audience. The strengths that came from our NGA Glass Conference. This is a long-standing event that brings together NGA's committees. Our volunteers come together for discussion, technical advocacy topics. So we're taking the best of NGA Glass Conference as well as GPAD, Glass Processing Automation Days. That was NGA's event, really focused on the factory floor, the partnership between supplier partners and the fabricators to improve efficiencies, productivity, quality control, and more, all on the factory floor. So in the panel discussion, we'll hear kind of an overview about the goals and the why behind GFAB, just the concerns that we're trying to get to address with GFAB and with our programming. But I wanted to take a little bit of time today to just talk through some of the new things that are coming that have been finalized since that conversation in Orlando at GlassBuild. So let's go to the next slide and just talk about the where. Sarah mentioned we're headed to Chicago. We are lucky enough to be going to Chicago in its most beautiful time of the year. We will gather June 14th through 17th. Our host hotel is the Radisson Blu Aqua Hotel that's featured on the left. It is just a gorgeous studio gang building, glass building, that undulating design. It's going to be a great venue to house our conversations on the future of glass and what is possible with this incredible building material. And because we're in Chicago, what better place to see the architecture that the city has to offer than on a Chicago architectural boat tour? If you've never been on one of these tours, it's just a great way to not only see the city and appreciate that location, but also to check out the really iconic buildings in Chicago. We'll have a docent from the Chicago Architectural Center helping to guide attendees through there. So that's going to be a great way to take advantage of Chicago. And perhaps most importantly, a big driver of us heading to Chicago is our ability to get into the Chicago facility for Skyline Architectural Glass. This is Vipul's facility. You'll hear from him in the panel replay in just a few minutes. But Vipul and the whole team at Skyline, they're opening the doors to the GFAB audience to come to their plant for not only a workshop, but also a tour. So great reason to be in Chicago. So let's go to the next slide. We talked about the where. Let's talk a little bit about the who. So who belongs at GFAB? Who is this for? Well, it is obviously for the glass fabricator audience, but also for all the supplier partners, all the folks who are teaming up with the glass fabricator to successfully create these glass products. So your machinery folks, software, maybe components, materials, anybody who's sort of joining with the fabricator as their partner. And within those two segments, the personnel, who should come personnel-wise. That's really three different types of personnel from your company. So first is executives, decision makers. The second is the glass industry technical engineering leaders from your companies. And finally, the plant production floor leaders, your managers, maybe your VP of manufacturing, quality control managers, folks who are really engaged in improving the factory floor efficiency, productivity, and quality. So that's the who. Now let's move on to the what. How are we serving these two or these disparate audiences in that fabricator community? So in order to create vibrant and meaningful conversation and content for each group, we have developed a track program for GFAB. So you can see on the screen here our three tracks. We begin with the executive track at the left. So this is, high-level industry-specific programming for your executives, VPs, strategic leaders of fabrication facilities and their supplier partners. Our topics for the executive track will include business financials, leadership and ownership transitions, market analysis and forecasts. We'll look into trends in technology, but trends in technology as it relates directly to glass fabrication. So what do decision makers need to know about AI and other advancements in terms of what it means for fabricating glass from that high-level strategic viewpoint. We'll also talk about design trends in glass. We'll be hearing from some leading architects and interior designers about what they are looking for from their glass industry partners. Over the coming weeks, we'll start to release our slate of speakers, and I can tell you there are some really great names on that list. So please do keep an eye out for that as we go forward. Our second track is the NGA Glass Conference track. I referenced our NGA Glass Conference previously, but this is is the place for NGA to continue its incredibly important work to drive the industry forward. And we can't do that without our committees, without our volunteers. So we are really just bringing that NGA Glass Conference and putting it into the GFAB framework. If you have been to an NGA Glass Conference, it is happening again here at GFAB. And our final track is the GFAB workshop. As we were talking to glass fabricators preparing for this event, a key need that they identified was education and kind of in-person content on a factory floor. So from that, we developed the GFAB workshop, and this first inaugural GFAB workshop will focus on quality control in glass tempering for plant leaders. Why did we choose glass tempering? Well, this is a process that nearly all fabricators do, and it's one that comes with complicated challenges that can affect quality, roller wave, bow and warp, etc. And those quality control issues directly affect the efficiency and profitability of fabricators. So Skyline's team, they are opening their doors for this program. The workshop, it'll be a smaller group there, split into teams doing a round robin throughout the facility to really get some in-depth education and a hands-on look at these quality control issues and improvements you can make to address any issues in tempering. So we've worked very closely with the Skyline team as well as our workshop sponsor, Light Century Soft Solution, to put together this day of programming. Send your QC managers, your plant managers, whoever you think would be best to get this in-person education and to bring those strategies and tools back to your facilities to immediately start to to address any concerns that you might have in your tempering. And I do want to shout out to our tempering task group at the NGA for helping to brainstorm the workshop contents. We really took all of the feedback from the folks who are, deeply engaged in the tempering process in their own facilities to create this workshop. So we could not have done it without their feedback. Beyond the conference programming, going ahead to our next slide, Sarah, we also have just some fun other elements of GFAB, some networking community opportunities. The first is GFAB Lab. For anybody who's been to an NGA Glass conference, my favorite element of that is sort of having folks just engage in interactive activities and kind of play a little bit and really get into what we do best in this industry. So at GFAB Lab, we're creating an interactive tabletop zone. We're going to have some competitions, prizes, new technologies on display. It should be a fun element to really just spice up the event and get people talking. And we've also got numerous networking opportunities. Receptions, we'll have our annual fun run for those who like to get up at dawn. Having it in Chicago will be really beautiful, getting a nice lakeside run, hopefully. That boat tour I mentioned, and then of course our NGA Volunteer Awards Dinner. So closing out, I have found in my conversations with folks about GFAB that that this slide kind of is a nice way to just communicate what we're hoping to do with GFAB. So this is our very basic block schedule. You can see in the orange all of our tracks. So on Monday, we will have that single day executive track programming. Tuesday, we'll start concurrently, we'll have our NGA Glass Conference track, and that will run Tuesday and Wednesday. And our workshop will also run on Tuesday offsite at Skyline. And then in blue, you can see those networking opportunities and activities. So come in on Sunday for that welcome reception. On Monday, we've got the GFAB Lab running all day, plus the architectural boat tour. On Tuesday, you can see we've got GFAB Lab all day, and then we'll close out with that tour of Skyline, a reception on the rooftop at Skyline. It's such an interesting fabrication facility. There are parts of it that are more than 100 years old. A really fun plant to check out. And then we'll conclude with that awards dinner. And then on Wednesday, we've got that fun run and walk followed by the end of the programming. So we'll get this schedule posted in the coming weeks with a little bit more detail for folks. But that's kind of our overview of GFAB. Sarah, on the next slide, what's next for everybody watching. Our registration opens on March 31st. Get a little bit more information at the link there. But I really, we're very excited to be bringing something new for this audience. And I am very much looking forward to seeing you all in Chicago in June. So I will hand it back over to Sarah, who's going to launch the panel replay from GlassBuild. But we'll stay on if you have any questions at all about GFAB or any of the resources that are mentioned in the panel. Thanks all.
Our next session is a GFAB preview, what's trending in glass fabrication.
I like to start with people introducing themselves. Let's talk a little bit about your role, your company, your role in the industry at large, and just some of your tenure. So Dan, let's start with you down on the end.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate first the invite of being here. Thank you very much. So I'm Dan Reinhart. I'm the CEO of Salem Fabrication Technologies Group. We're a wholesale distributor. We sell capital equipment and diamond tooling to the industry. We also get involved with other product lines in different industries. We're also in the marble industry, granite, and the ophthalmic eyewear industry as well. We also own a company called K&W Grinding, which we reprofile and retrue peripheral wheels for the solar and automotive industries. But most importantly, we are a 100% employee-owned company. So here representing all the owners of Salem Fabrication, and I've been in the industry just over 25 years. So it seems like I started very young, by the way. So.
Oh, Vipul.
Thanks, Katie. Vipul Bhagat with Skyline Design in Chicago. We are a decorative glass company. We've been in business for 43 years, coming up soon in a couple of months. I've been with the company for almost 32 of those years. I was born there.
Okay.
How Dan was. In any case, we are the premier architectural design company for decorated glass. We etch, we paint, we print, we laminate. One of our biggest products is a switchable glass. You see that in and around the floor here. But we've been kind of pushing our marketing towards architecture and design, and that's kind of what I think the NGA is trying to commingle now too. So it's good to be part of all of those new ideas and changes that are going on.
Jenni.
I'm Jenni Chase. I also have been in the industry for many years, although you never know it. But I've been with NGA for over 25 years, and I head up our education and training. So for those of you who are not familiar with my glass fab, we'll be talking a little bit about that today. It's good to see you all.
So this session is called What's Trending in Glass Fabrication. So I'm going to start out with just some quick hits. I'd like each of you to offer a hot take for us on glass fabrication. Number one, what's the biggest challenge for glass fabricators today? And number two, what is the biggest opportunity? So Dan, let's start with you. Quick hit.
Yeah, quick hit would be workforce labor. I think all of us can agree on that. And then the most, I would think that automation is what is the biggest trend that we see happening in the industry and needs to happen in the industry in regards to helping out your workforce with consistency, stability, and safety.
People.
So challenge, I think, would be a consistent revenue stream, as I'm sure everyone here deals with on a daily basis, right? Projecting business, even 3 months out, 6 months out, that's kind of a challenge, especially for our business, being kind of nuanced and niche as it is. And as far as, a good thing is that we've got a lot of technology coming out, like in the smart glass product range. So that's been a big success for us over the last few years, and that's coming out even more.
Jenni?
I mean, I'm going to go with Dan on the workforce. That's a really big challenge, particularly at the production level. So that's a big challenge. In terms of opportunity, I'm going to go with Vipul and the technology. There's so many amazing products coming out. Feels like the sky's the limit in terms of glass applications.
So this conversation that we've been having here, we at the NGA have been having this kind of on a broader scale with many fabricators for the last year as we work as a team to create a brand new event for the Glass Fabricator. So part of why we wanted to have this panel was to announce the NGA Glass Fabricator Conference, GFAB, which will be coming in spring of 2026 to Chicago. This event is for the glass fabricator. So you belong there if you're a glass fabricator, a supplier to the glass fabricator, if you're supplying machinery or components, interlayers, if you're the glass supplier. And within those two groups, we're looking to create a program based on a demand from our glass fabricators for the executive decision makers, the glass industry technical leaders, and then folks on the manufacturing floor, leaders of that manufacturing floor. So all of the topics that we just heard about, labor, employment, technology, automation, design trends, those high-level questions like Vipul was saying about uncertainty in market, how market trends will affect fabricators, all of that is coming to GFAB because this conversation is one we need to be having on a much wider scale with so many more of fabricators in this community. So let's start, because labor is the biggest challenge that we hear from every company we talk to. Jenni, let me turn it over to you to talk through this.
Yeah, so we survey top glass fabricators every year at the National Glass Association, and every single year, lack of labor is a top challenge. This statistic here, fabricators continue to report a shortage, particularly of entry-level production personnel, but also of skilled personnel. That's what our top class fabricators are telling us. But if you look at nationwide statistics, so the National Association of Manufacturers says that nationwide manufacturers in general, 67% of them say that the inability to attract and retain employees is their top challenge. So it's not just our industry, it's manufacturing at large that is really facing this. So the Manufacturing Institute, which is the workforce development arm of the National Association of Manufacturers, does a survey of manufacturers across the country. These are the results that they found when it came to the most successful ways to attract and retain talent. Obviously, competitive benefit programs, competitive salaries are going to be the number one thing. What I found interesting was flexible scheduling was incredibly important, followed by training and upskilling opportunities. So the second two strategies in particular are interesting to look at. We know that millennials and Gen Z workers are often referred to as job hoppers. I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but if their job does, I see some smiles. But if their jobs don't fit their work-life balance, they're not afraid to move on pretty quickly. So what we're finding as employers in the manufacturing fabrication environment, we need to be more flexible to be able to meet their work-life balance demands, and flexible scheduling can be one of those things. They're also very interested in seeing a path for growth. So, you might have someone who's coming in, has no skills, starts at the entry level, but they want to know what their path is, what their wage structure is, right at the get-go. This is something we're seeing on the installation side of the industry as well. So getting into these flexible work arrangements, these are some of the strategies that some of these really large manufacturers have participated in. You'll see compressed work weeks. One manufacturer offers 3 flexibility options for its production workers. So you could come in and do a traditional work week, 5 8-hour days, a 4-day, 10-hour work week, a 3-day, 12-hour work week. You know, some of your production personnel may be balancing work with childcare, with school, you know, so that type of flexibility can be important. That company reported, interestingly, that workers still preferred the 5-day, 8-hour option, but just knowing that they had flexibility should their circumstances change was attractive. Shift swapping. So another manufacturer reported allowing employees to swap up to a week at a time with supervisor permission. Obviously, those employees have to be trained in the same skills. But again, looking for a little more flexibility in their work environment. And I would really recommend finding this report. It's called the Flexibility for Manufacturing Production Workers. And I can give it to you after the session, but it's really interesting to see how fabricators and manufacturers are playing with their schedules to meet the lifestyles of their employees. So when it comes to training, NGA is developing My Glass Fab. So some of you may be familiar with My Glass class, which is really glazer centric. It shows them you know, how to install curtain wall, what have you. My Glass Fab is very specific to glass fabrication production personnel. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to run just a little example so you can show, you can see what we're talking about.
Welcome to this course on preparing equipment for heat treating glass. Click the arrow to continue. Glass companies use a process called heat treatment to make glass stronger and safer. During heat treatment, the glass goes through several steps. First, it is run through sanding belts to remove any sharp edges. Next, it is washed, dried, and checked for problems like chips, cracks, or dirt. After inspection, the glass is loaded into the furnace and then heated to the right temperature based on the recipe. When heating is done, it moves into the quench, where it is cooled in a controlled way. After cooling, the glass comes out of the quench and is ready for final tests, such as surface pressure and break tests. In this course, we will cover the steps taken to prepare equipment for the heat treatment process.
So that's just a very brief clip, but I wanted to show you how we get really hands-on. It's how to load the glass on the table. It's how to clear the quench when the glass breaks. I mean, somebody who has no experience in glass fabrication whatsoever can take these courses, come onto your floor, and at least be familiar with the equipment and what their tasks will be. And then should you want to upskill them, move them from the tempering line to the laminating line, there's training available. So that's something we're working on at NGA, and I'm happy to talk to you about. But that also speaks to part of the employee retention is you got to train them well and show them the skills that they can learn. Part of it also is employee pride. You know, you want to be able to go home to your family and tell them what you do and explain to them what you do. And this type of training helps with that. So there we go.
So it seems like you can't talk about workforce without really, on the factory floor, without beginning to talk about technology and automation. And Dan, I'd like to hand it over to you to talk through a little bit of, oh, here we go. All right, yet again, we have to be, we're surprised by coming in there. So Dan, you'll have to do it a little bit blind, but let's talk, you know, kind of generally about automation and the power of automation for glass companies as they face.
Sure, we've mentioned that workforce, or at least keeping your workforce for a long period of time is difficult. Jenni mentioned, you know, keeping them for 6 months and not afraid to move on.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of stories probably in this audience that's 2 weeks and they move on. They get a paycheck and they're gone. So one of the things we need to address in the industry is automation. And once again, I don't want to be turning around looking at this. And, but one of the things that we feel that we need to bring out, if you think about 6-7 years ago, you see the automated polish lines that are coming out with using robotics. That is something that this industry needs to take the next step forward. Looking at fully automated, I know we've got a lot of glass lines out there, meaning cutting lines that have automated systems that are for racking. your glass after cutting, but the next generation of that is how can we use robots in areas of bottlenecks? Is it unloading your IG line? Is it loading your washer? Is it literally moving glass from the finished cutting area to a tempering line or to your production line? So we have some ideas and brought some forth. You'll certainly see on the out here more robots that are being used in those type of applications, and also something for material handling is autonomous robots right now. You guys have all maybe seen an Uber that's driving around with nobody in it. Well, certainly we have options today in warehousing, in glass handling, in your facility where you could use an autonomous robot to move glass within your facilities. So that's something that I think is the next step and the next trend in the glass fabrication industry.
Now, Dan, I'm interested to talk a little bit more about the ROI of automation, right? Because clearly these technologies, they're so exciting, but they also are a really big investment for fabricators. So can you talk through a little bit just about the value of that?
Yeah, they can be. I think there's a couple of different hurdles there. One of them is financial, and the other is cultural. So we'll address the financial side of it first. You don't necessarily need to jump into this in a full scale. Hopefully some of the video behind us, I know at some point in time we'll get to a full automated plant where it starts from glass cutting, no one's touching it all the way through to a finished product. But certainly you want to take a look at, when you're looking at ROI, the cost of entry can be much lower, starting to reduce workforce or reallocate workforce to areas where you could use a robot to unload or load a line in particular. So it could be loading your tempering line, it could be unloading that IG line. Those are the things that if you want to start small, you have to think about your bottleneck and address those first. So I think the barrier is much lower than it was in the past. And we're talking anywhere from probably 18 to 36 months. If you can get in that range, I think it's a good investment to look at.
Mm-hmm. And Vipul, how does that resonate with you as a fabricator?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we talked about workforce. I actually had the benefit of sitting here on the last talk when Joshua was up there, and we're doing those things, right? Finding good people to do the things that we need. And we have to look at the things that Dan talks about and sells, right? What makes sense? How do you run 2 shifts? How do you run 3 shifts if that's what you need to do? Space constraints, right? Sometimes you just can't have all the things you want to have. And automation helps, fill those gaps, right? And so technology, I talked about that in the products I make, but there's also technology. We're here for the show because of all the equipment that you have behind you. You can hear it all running, right? And, we're interested in those things and trying to find out better ways to put out. There it goes again. We want to be able to put out high quality, durable products that last a long time. We're not just a finish, if you will. We're a structural part of any construction project, and you got to be able to make it right. And some of the things that Dan, promotes helps us do that.
Mm-hmm. So Dan, just to kind of close out on this, you talked a little bit about the recommendations for fabricators if they're beginning to launch into that, but can you dig in a little more and talk about maybe some common pitfalls that fabricators often face through this process and your advice to them?
Sure. My biggest thing would be to find a partner that you trust. Of course, booth 22061 is right down there. That would be Salem's booth, but in all seriousness, there are plenty of partners within the industry. You want to make sure you're on the same page with them to fully integrate an area that you want to focus on. And that goes from any software needs that you might have, concerns that you have with installation, safety. There's just a lot of things you need to think about in areas that you want to automate first. And certainly you want to focus on areas that are causing the bottlenecks for you. That's the one recommendation I would have. Vipul probably understands that, hey, if we've got an issue, we want to address it here and start there. So that addresses where you're going to have your barrier of entry. Maybe it's a small project that you're working on, but also this gets you into kind of that the feel that, hey, it's not taking over the whole plant. We can start in a small area and build automation. Today it is almost the word piecemeal. You can do automation and get into automation without having to fully automate your plant today.
So through this conversation, we started with people, moving to process a little bit, and I want to close out by talking about product and sort of the possibilities in glass. And so Vipul, I'll hand it over to you. We've got a few case studies. And do you want to run the slides and talk through these?
Yeah.
Talking about some of the trends?
I think I got it on the screen here, so I'll be able to do that without having
there
to
we
look back. So, when it comes to technology, how do we interpret what we all do in this industry to get to the things that you see in the image here, right? That's some pretty amazing stuff there that you see. So that's a train station in Chicago, and that's one of the waiting booths, right? So this project in particular, we worked with an artist that was commissioned by the Chicago Transit Authority, and we worked through a process of transforming his art to a printable image on glass. So the technology that goes into that is super critical. There's pieces of equipment that we use. There's some of those things are here, but how we put the printing on there, how we're putting finishes on there so that it lasts like that, needs to look like that in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, right? And the technology that we have available allows us to do those things. Here's another project. This is an elevator core at a hospital in Chicago, Rush Hospital. So every floor has a different color. This happens to be an artist who is a photographer that manipulates her images into these kind of abstract images. But every one of the floors in the hospital, the elevator core, has a cool different color scheme to it. This one's our switchable. Does it show up? Yeah, so this is one of the technologies I was talking about earlier, switchable glass technology. So this has been probably one of our fastest growing product offerings in the history of the company. We've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years. And it's a simple product. It's clear glass when you want it to be clear and visible, and private when you don't. It's really been up and coming in healthcare. So when you have exam rooms and patient rooms, that's where we're seeing a ton of this kind of stuff. So instead of those cubicle curtains that they don't clean them when they're supposed to, right? And we've all been in the hospital, whether it's us or a family member or whatever, and this replaces that. Now we have a material that's non-porous, you can clean it, easy to control. We have situations where we can use the proximity scans from a badge, so if a doctor walks in, it goes to private right away. So there's a lot of technology involved in making these things, and then how you can use it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for planting that seed about the curtains.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, but they're gross.
No, that's a very cool application.
Yeah, that's the one word I can use. This one's a special one. This one is the one that we yesterday were recognized for an award for. This project is in Northern California, University of California, Santa Cruz. Jeannie Gang is the architect, so Studio Gang. It's a global firm recognized for their, they do skyscrapers. So they have a bunch of projects in Chicago. We're going to actually be in her hotel that she designed, and she's going to be doing a talk there. So all of this kind of connects, which is kind of cool. But we were able to work with Studio Gang on an exterior glazing project. There were, I think, on this 4 buildings, and each one of these panels or lights that you see, that's a detail shot that you can see up there, had a different image on it. So you're seeing a lot of bird safe product on the floor here this week, and there's dots and stripes and things, but what we I'm going to talk about Skyline for a second now. We can do super custom stuff. So whether it's one light, on a storefront or, 4 entire buildings, we can produce product that fits that architectural design element that designers are looking for.
So
Are these little animals? Are these little animals?
They're little animals, yeah. Can you
Okay,
see
I was
that?
like, is that a snake and like a camel? And anyway.
Yeah, so
I digress, but that was
no, the bird safe rule is the 2x2. So those are all. You can see how small they are. If you
Right.
imagine that the space between those etched animals is 2 inches, and then they get bigger as the facade kind of moves along to the other end. So it's pretty cool.
That is
Yeah.
cool, yeah.
So I love the suite of projects you chose for this.
Yeah.
Because it really demonstrates the influence that we have. You are able to produce almost anything with glass because of the machinery and equipment available, but that then allows you to communicate back to the design teams, artists, photographers, to do more with that
Right.
product. So can you talk a little bit about the way that architects, interior designers, artists are influenced by the things that we are doing with glass, and then vice versa?
Well, it's definitely a teaching and learning moment. There's been architects in the audience yesterday that I got to meet with, and I asked them, what are you looking for, right? And so they're all about the design. The manufacturing part, which is really important to all of us here, they kind of care about it, they're kind of interested in it, but they really want to promote the work that they're going to do as part of the entire project, right? And so something Skyline has done over its last 40-some years is really work heavily with architects and designers to get specified. That's how we get our work. Specification is a huge part of our process. Our marketing and advertising strategies are focused to those groups. But then, we get to work with all the glazing community and the installers and mill workers that are out there that actually then order the product from us and install it, right? So we get to work at that whole level. But that architectural part, that interior design part, is really a massive part of the process. And we're trying to promote that through the NGA too. That's one of the reasons I'm on the board is to kind of figure out how to do that better and different and kind of in a way that helps all of us here, right? The entire industry.
So thinking about capabilities of glass, and Dan, I'm curious from your perspective as well, the capabilities that machinery folks have to do more with that glass. What's next? So Vipul, I'll start with you. What's coming next for glass?
I can't tell you, it's top secret. No,
You can tell us. We're
yeah. No, it's just taking all of these things and combining them. That's one aspect of this. That's one of the things we do, right? So you can take that pattern and put it on the inside and put switch glass on it. We're doing work with a lot of furniture companies where we're taking their fabric patterns and interpreting them into techniques that we used on glass. And now the architect or designer has the ability to match everything, which they love, right? So branding and wayfinding, all of those things are things that we kind of forget about in the work that we're doing all day, right? But architects, designers, end users even, right? Those are the folks that are paying for all this stuff that we're doing. They want their project to be award-winning and the most beautiful thing ever done. And so, if you can speak to them about those things, they feel good about using the products that we make and sell.
Dan, what's next?
Well, I would say going back to the automation side with everything that he's trying to do, you want less rejects, you want more sustainability, you want a safer workforce, and automation does answer a lot of those questions. So I think that those things have to be embraced. Once again, you can take some small steps to be able to do that, but I think the fabricator is looking to become more efficient at what they do, which will help the Vipul side of the business where they can make different types of products in a safe and sustainable manner.
So closing the loop on this sort of people, process, products, all for the fabricator, why isn't an event like GFAB one that brings together fabricators, all the suppliers around them to address some of those big challenges. Why is that important? And Jenni, I'll start with you for that.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason that an event like this is important, right? We've got this group of people who all do the same thing, who all face the same challenges, who are all trying to solve the same problems. We can sit up here and give you, our perspective, but really it's talking amongst each other as well and finding out what's working in your different companies that's going to help you. So from my perspective, as a people person, that opportunity to gather together like-minded people who are facing the same issues. You can learn from experts. We're going to have some great learning opportunities. And you can also talk to each other and be like, hey, I'm looking to automate this process in my facility. How did it go for you? What pitfalls did you find? What went well? How are you playing around with flexible scheduling? What's working well for you? What's not working well for you? So there's power in numbers, right? So getting us all together to talk about these things, I think, is super important.
People.
So expanding on what Jenni said, I get to sit up here and talk about it, but we have 70 other employees at our company. They're just as important as I am, as far as I'm concerned. I get to be here doing this. They're all still there doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we need to involve all of those folks. If it's important, like again, I go back to what Joshua said, ownership, right? At every level. That's super important. And so if we can get people to buy in, the people that we work with that work for us, then we'll all be better for it.
Dan.
Yeah, and ultimately, if we can promote GFAB as an educational tool to help bring others into the industry, it's got to be a strong industry. I think we have some ability to say, hey, we've got automation coming into the facilities. It may gear towards someone that's actually more interested in that level instead of, hey, you go out and push the broom and go move this glass cart, but they're starting to use, we have a more educational workforce that's, hey, you realize you can run a robot, you're running a CNC machine, so it's something a little bit more high level, and I think that makes someone that might be more interested in joining the glass and glazing industry.
That's a really good point, Dan. Thank you for bringing that up, because we are finding, particularly with younger generations, that is interesting. How do I learn how to do?
I started pushing a broom way back. He probably did too. It's
sir.
It's once again, that's not what I want to do anymore. And I think a lot of the kids and folks, the younger generation that's coming in today, they don't want to do that either.
We're not trying to get rid of the human element here by any means.
No,
right?
not at all.
Are we all just going to be robots here sitting at this show in a few years? We can all be replaced if that's the case, but I don't think that's what we're all looking to do, right? We're trying to grow and be better, and we need things to help us do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look forward to seeing all of you in Chicago in the spring and you all in the spring. Find out more at glass.org. But thank you all for being part of this panel. I really appreciate you all.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all for attending. We are happy to stay on, Katie and myself, to answer any additional questions you may have. Just drop them in the chat or the Q&A feature of the Zoom toolbar. And otherwise, we appreciate you being here. We hope to see you at GFAB, and if not, also the BEC conference coming up soon. And finally, at our next webinar taking place March 12th, and this will be a window and door market survey recap. In the meantime, we appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon.